Mystery isn't danger, but to insecure people, they're the same thing. There's a certain kind of man who doesn't chase attention, doesn't explain himself, and doesn't care to correct the rumors. That man is the Sigma, and his refusal to speak becomes the loudest sound in the room. People don't gossip about what they know. They gossip about what they can't understand. And the Sigma, he gives them nothing but silence, subtlety, and strategy. No outbursts, no oversharing. Just a presence too sharp to ignore and too unreadable to decode. So they invent, they assume, they whisper, they try to make sense of a man who gives them no blueprint to follow, no reaction to study. And that's where the rumors begin. This is not about being misunderstood, it's about being misinterpreted on purpose by people who need to feel like they're in control of the narrative. Below are 10 reasons why the Sigma male becomes the subject of gossip and why he never has to respond. 1. He's silent in a world addicted to disclosure. People fear what they can't categorize, so they label it instead. We live in a culture that overshares everything. From breakups to breakfast, everyone's broadcasting. So when a man chooses silence, it disturbs the balance. The Sigma male doesn't post vague quotes after arguments. He doesn't go live to spill emotions. He stays still. And that stillness becomes a canvas for people to paint their own projections. His silence isn't empty, it's surgical. But those who crave chaos see it as arrogance or secrecy. So they fill the gaps with assumptions and call it truth. 2. They don't know what he thinks, so they assume the worst. When your face doesn't explain you, they'll write a story that does. Facial expressions, small talk, public vulnerability. These are tools people use to read others. To them, emotions are best understood when they're loud, obvious, and on display. But the Sigma doesn't offer that. He doesn't overexpose. He doesn't perform. He doesn't flinch under pressure, doesn't oversmile to ease tension, doesn't fake empathy to make people feel comfortable. He moves with economy of words, of energy, of expression, and that minimalism disturbs those who need validation through visibility. So they project. They panic in silence. If someone can't be emotionally measured, they assume threat. They mistake emotional sovereignty for secrecy and mystery for manipulation. Because if they can't decode your body language, they feel powerless, and that powerlessness turns into judgment. So they label him cold, rude, calculating, not because he is, but because they need a box to shove him into. It's not about him. It's about their discomfort in the presence of unreadable strength. 3. His independence makes people feel rejected. They don't want you to be free. They want you to need them so they feel important. The Sigma male doesn't orbit anyone. He's self-contained. His world is built from within, not outsourced through likes, groupthink, or validation loops. In a society where clicks equal comfort and attention equals relevance, his quiet detachment becomes a loud rejection even when it's not meant to be. So instead of admitting their insecurity, they whisper, they gossip, they twist his independence into arrogance. They say he's antisocial, stuck up, too good for others. But those accusations aren't based on reality. They're reactions to feeling invisible in his presence. The truth? He's not performing for connection. He doesn't need a crowd to feel whole. And when people who depend on applause meet someone who doesn't even care to enter the arena, they don't understand him, they resent him. 4. They can't control his image, so they try to damage it. When they can't shape your story, they'll try to stain it. Control is the currency of weak minds, and the Sigma, by refusing to give them anything, becomes immune to their influence. But insecure people hate that. If they can't shape your identity, they'll try to control the narrative around you. That's where the gossip starts. They spread stories not because they're true, but because they need to feel like they have power over something they don't understand. 5. They mistake boundaries for conceit. When you say no without guilt, they hear arrogance. The Sigma doesn't owe his energy to everyone. He's selective by design, not by ego. Every conversation, every commitment, every emotional investment is filtered through a brutal lens. Is it worth it? And that kind of calculation unnerves people, especially those used to getting easy access to others. They're accustomed to performers, people who overextend just to be liked, people who rush to fix, to please, to accommodate. But the Sigma male doesn't operate on emotional debt. He doesn't believe presence should be bought with guilt. So when he says no, when he steps back, when he refuses to show up for an emotional performance that doesn't serve him, it hits different. It's not rebellion. It's refusal to play a game he never agreed to. And people hate that. They interpret boundaries as betrayal, self-respect as coldness, distance as insult. So they gossip, not because they were harmed, but because they were denied. Denied the emotional entertainment they expected. Not because he hurt them, but because he didn't break himself to keep them comfortable. 6, he doesn't clap back. So they think he's weak. Real strength doesn't need a microphone. In today's reactive world, silence is seen as surrender. The moment someone is accused or criticized, there's pressure to explain, clarify, apologize even when it's unearned. So when rumors start and the Sigma doesn't rush to clear his name, the reactive minds assume he's guilty. Because why else would someone stay quiet in the face of noise? But he's not staying silent because he's powerless. He's doing it because he's strategic. His silence isn't avoidance, it's a calculated refusal to engage with what doesn't deserve his energy. He knows that correcting small minds is a waste of time, that trying to control gossip only feeds it, that defending yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you is an emotional black hole. He's seen it, the desperate PR scramble, the performative apologies, the chaos of reputation management, and he wants no part of it. So he waits, watches, and lets the noise exhaust itself. He understands that storms always pass, but those who chase them end up soaked in someone else's mess. The Sigma doesn't chase storms. He studies weather patterns and builds where the skies stay clear. 7, he exposes insecurities without saying a word. You don't have to insult anyone to make them feel small, just stop playing their game. The Sigma doesn't call people out. He doesn't argue. He simply disengages. And that disconnection feels like an insult to those who thrive on emotional chaos. His presence reminds them of what they're not: composed, focused, whole. And instead of doing the work to elevate themselves, they attack him from the shadows. They gossip, not because he did something wrong, but because he reminds them how far they've fallen. 8, he's the unknown variable they can't decode. The less you say, the more people fill in the blanks with fear. The Sigma is unpredictable, not because he's erratic, but because he's not rehearsed. He's authentic. People who live through performance need predictability. And when they meet someone who's unreadable, they don't feel safe. So they build safety by building stories. He becomes the villain, the narcissist, the snake, whatever helps them cope with their own discomfort around mystery. 9, he doesn't belong to any group, so they call him dangerous. The one who walks alone is always more feared than the one who shouts in a crowd. The Sigma doesn't seek tribes. He doesn't conform. He doesn't follow groupthink. That makes him a wild card in the eyes of those who only feel strong in numbers. And when you can't recruit someone, you label them. You isolate them. You gossip about them. Because if he's not with us, he must be against us. Right? Wrong. He's just beyond you. 10, they need a story and he refuses to give one. When you offer no narrative, they'll invent one that makes them feel better. The Sigma doesn't advertise his pain. He doesn't ask for sympathy. He doesn't perform suffering. And that lack of emotional exhibition irritates people who measure connection by exposure. So they speculate. Something's off about him. He's hiding something. He's probably toxic. Not because he is, but because they need a reason to justify why his peace unsettles them. And rather than elevate to his level, they drag his name down to theirs where they feel safe. On a final note, when you become unreadable, you become unforgettable. The Sigma male doesn't chase applause. He doesn't run from rumors. He doesn't beg for character defense. He lives above the noise not because he's better, but because he chose silence as strength. Gossip isn't about truth. It's about comfort. It's how weak people create meaning out of mystery. And when a Sigma offers them none, they panic. So they speculate. They invent. They spread. But the more they talk, the more powerful his silence becomes. He doesn't clap back. He doesn't clear his name. He just keeps building while they keep burning. Because in the end, people don't gossip about the predictable. They gossip about the powerful. And when your energy can't be read, it can't be controlled.